Whispers Beyond the Veil. 8 Paranormal Tales. Story 1.
There was a man from my office. We'll call him Suzuki. He loved traveling to Thailand, especially the countryside, far from tourists. He always made friends with the locals and took tons of pictures. When he came back, he'd print every photo, put them neatly into an album, and show them to us. It was his little tradition. One day, while flipping through his new photos, Suzuki suddenly frowned. He pointed at one picture and said,
"Wait, was this person here before?"
It was a photo of him smiling in a rice field, but about 10 meters behind him stood a woman. "That's strange," he said quietly.
"I'm sure I was alone that day."
He looked uneasy, but soon closed the album and put it away. 6 months later, Suzuki looked at the photo again and froze. The woman was now closer, only 5 meters behind him. Her face was starting to show. Feeling creeped out, he quickly shut the album. Another 6 months passed. One night, he opened it again. The woman was right behind him. Her face was clear now, but she had no eyes. Suzuki panicked, grabbed the photo, and ran to a psychic. The moment she saw him, her face turned pale. She whispered,
"Didn't you know? That woman's been standing behind you all this time."
Story 2.
My phone rang one day. The caller ID showed a number I didn't recognize. When I answered, an older woman's voice asked,
"Is this Mr. Suzuki?"
"My last name is Tanaka." "No," I replied.
"Then who are you?"
She asked. The bluntness caught me off guard, and I started to get annoyed. "You haven't even told me who you are. That's pretty rude," I said before hanging up. A few days later, another unknown number popped up on my phone. I was pretty sure it was the same one. When I answered, it was the same woman again.
"Is this Mr. Suzuki?"
"You've got the wrong number," I said, and immediately blocked her. About a week later, my phone rang again. A different number, this time. Strange people everywhere these days, I thought as I picked up, saying nothing.
"Mr. Suzuki, you're Mr. Suzuki, right?"
The voice on the other end sounded unnervingly cheerful. Gross. I hung up without a word, but the phone rang again right away.
"Mr. Suzuki, I know you're Mr. Suzuki."
The voice insisted, still cheerful. This time, I lost my temper. "Enough already. Check the number before you call. I told you it's the wrong number. How many times do I have to say it?" I shouted. There was a pause. Then, in a deep male voice, the caller said,
"Yes, I know. You're Tanaka."
And the line went dead. Ever since then, seeing an unknown number on my phone makes my skin crawl.
Story 3.
One day, a transfer student came to my class. His name was Kenta, and we quickly became friends. Not long after, he told me about his family. His mom had divorced when he was little, and the man she lived with now was his stepfather. A few years ago, they all moved into his stepfather's house, where his step-grandmother also lived. But recently, after a big fight, his mom and stepfather separated. One afternoon, Kenta asked me to go with him to his stepfather's house to pick up some things. The moment we stepped inside, the place felt heavy, dark, damp, and smelling of mold. Kenta went upstairs. I, looking for the bathroom, wandered downstairs. That's when I noticed the bathroom door half open. Out of habit, I peeked inside and froze. In the bathtub sat a middle-aged woman, fully clothed, staring right at me. Panicked, I blurted out, "I'm sorry." She whispered back,
"You did that on purpose, didn't you?"
Terrified, I ran. As we left, I thought, Kenta's mom looked young, but even his grandmother looked like she was in her 30s or 40s. On the way home, I asked him, "Was your step-grandmother there today?" Kenta frowned.
"Impossible. If that old lady had been home, she would have talked to me."
I stayed quiet. I didn't dare tell him what I saw. A few days later, Kenta vented about his parents again. Curious, I asked, why do they fight so much? He hesitated, then whispered,
Don't tell anyone. My stepdad, he was once suspected of killing his ex-wife. My mom didn't know when she married him. She only found out recently. When she confronted him, they had a huge fight. I even heard him yelling.
I didn't mean to. It was an accident.
Not long after, we moved out.
At that moment, the image of the woman in the bathtub flashed in my mind, and a chill ran down my spine.
Story 4.
4 hikers were trapped in a small mountain cabin after an accident. It was a freezing night. They had no electricity, no water, and almost no food. Exhausted and shivering, they could barely keep their eyes open. Their team leader grew anxious. He knew that if anyone fell asleep in that cold, they might never wake up again. So he came up with an idea.
Let's each stand in one corner of the room. I'll walk along the wall and tap the person in the next corner. Then that person will go tap the next one. If we keep this up, we'll all stay awake.
Everyone agreed, and the 4 of them spent the night patting each other awake from corner to corner. The next morning, rescuers found them alive. When reporters later asked how they had survived, they proudly told the story of their corner game. Then someone paused and realized something strange. There are 4 corners in a room, but if one person is always moving, how could all 4 corners be occupied at the same time?
Story 5.
I live in a small apartment with thin wooden walls, so I can sometimes hear what goes on next door. At night, when the couple next door gets intimate, I have this habit of pressing my ear against the wall to eavesdrop. One night, as I was listening like usual, the sound suddenly stopped. Puzzled, I pulled my ear away from the wall. That's when it happened. A long, sharpened iron nail shot through the wall, right at the exact spot where my ear had been just a second ago. The nail then slid back into the wall. Through the thin partition, I could hear the woman whisper,
"Not red this time."
And the man replied, "Next time, we won't miss."
Story 6.
This happened about 5 years ago. Back then, my best friend Yuki and I went on a road trip together. We had a great morning, and around noon, we stopped by a small town for lunch. By the time we got back on the road, the sky was already getting dark. Yuki said she was a bit tired and soon fell asleep in the passenger seat. I kept driving, playing some music to stay awake. After about 30 minutes, I realized I was lost. The GPS wasn't working, and there was no signal on my phone. I was about to pull over and check the map when a soft, faint voice whispered right next to my ear.
"Go straight, then turn left."
It sounded so natural that I didn't even question it. I just followed the directions and, surprisingly, I really did find the road again. Relieved, I kept driving. Then, that same voice spoke again.
"Turn right up ahead. You'll see a bridge soon."
I thought to myself, wait, has Yuki been here before? This place was in the middle of nowhere. How could she know it so well? Curious, I asked her, "Hey Yuki, have you been here before?" No response. She was still leaning against the window, her hair covering her face. It looked like she was still asleep. Something didn't feel right. That voice? It didn't really sound like hers. My throat went dry. I tried again. "Yuki, how do you even know this area so well?" The moment I said that, I caught a glimpse in the rearview mirror. There, sitting in the middle of the back seat, was a woman. She was wearing a white dress, her long hair hanging beside her pale face, staring silently toward the front. Then she leaned closer, so close, her lips were almost at my ear, and whispered,
"Because
I died here."
Story 7.
This is a story my brother once heard from his friend Yumi. Yumi's father died when she was still very young, so she was raised by her mother alone. Her mother worked endlessly, morning and night, to make sure her daughter could get a proper education and eventually go to college. But years of hard work finally caught up to her, and she collapsed. Lying on her deathbed, Yumi's mother called her over and said,
My time is almost up. From now on, you'll truly be on your own. The world is a cruel place, but you must do your best to survive.
Then she pulled out a small, handmade amulet from the bedside drawer and handed it to Yumi.
Keep this with you and think of it as your mother. Whenever you feel lost or helpless, open it, and it will give you strength.
After her mother passed away, Yumi always carried the amulet close to her. She worked part-time jobs, struggled through hardships, and eventually got into the university she had always dreamed of. One day, she told her classmate Kenta about the amulet. Intrigued, Kenta became curious about what was inside. At a class gathering, he suddenly snatched it from her hands and unfolded a small piece of paper tucked inside. He glanced at it and exclaimed,
"Whoa, what the hell is this?"
Then he tossed the paper back to her. Startled, Yumi picked it up. She was about to fold it back inside the amulet when her eyes fell on the writing. The paper contained only one chilling sentence.
Then just go die.
Story 8.
This happened when I was a kid. In my hometown, there was an old abandoned apartment building, 2 stories tall, made of cracked concrete, with shattered windows and mold creeping up the walls. Everyone avoided it. People said strange things happened there. One afternoon, my friend and I decided to test our courage and explore it. Since it was still bright outside, we climbed up to the 2nd floor. There was a long hallway lined with doors. On one of them, something was written in faded red paint. "I'm inside this room." We looked at each other, nervous but curious, and pushed the door open. At the end of the corridor, a wall waited for us, with another message scrawled across it. "I'm on the left." Even though our hands were shaking, we followed the arrow and turned left. At the end of that hallway were 2 doors, one to the left and one to the right. And on the wall between them, someone had written, "The head is on the left. The body is on the right." My friend froze, then bolted out of the building in panic. But I couldn't move. Something made me step toward the room on the right. Inside, the air was damp and cold. I walked to the back wall. There, written just above the floor, were the words, "My body is down below." I hesitated, then looked down and saw a final message. "My head is coming from the left room."
Don't look back.
I didn't even think. I jumped out of the nearest window and ran until the building disappeared behind me. And from that day on, I never set foot near those ruins again.
Like the story? Hit that like button, subscribe for more spine-chilling tales, share it with your friends, and let me know what you think in the comments. More horror is coming your way.